Unhinged Wonders. We are your hosts, Daisy.
Prissy Wissy.
And Peony. And this is Take 3, where one trio talks, reacts, streams, geeks out.
And collectively have a mental breakdown. Today's subject is Hannibal. Presented to the Council of Cretins by Daisy. Give us your case. Why are we the Cretins consuming this media today?
Okay.
Good pun, Chrysanthemum, good pun.
I'm so funny.
So
No, that was funny.
all right. So for those of you who may or may not have seen our post on February the 14th, we did a Hannibal edit.
I didn't know we were doing that till it went up. I'm just saying.
I
me
made
and Chris
a joke
did a
about
Hannibal
it.
edit.
I made a joke about it, and Daisy just went forward and did it. So
Yes. So like it said in the description of that, this show Hannibal has been kind of the only thing that I've been consuming along with Chris for the past
girl, not consuming.
several months.
We gotta stop using the word consuming. Not a good enough reason to use the word consume.
I'm not
Not
even
in this
doing it on,
case.
I'm not even doing it on purpose. So quick little warning before we get into this. This
Gore,
is
gore, and more gore, I think, right?
Yes, we are
Most
talking about
definitely.
Hannibal. Looking over my notes and my scripts, I don't bring it up too much in terms of words, but there is one or two pictures that are not safe for children. So if
If you're visually
you're
squeamish.
yeah, so if
Yes.
you're visibly squeamish, and if you're, I'd say, probably under maybe 15, approach this with caution. And I think
I'm gonna say under 18 so we don't get sued.
Yeah.
yes. And for those of you over 18 who are still visibly squeamish, I will try to ward when the pictures are, because I think I remember where in the slideshow they are.
Also,
I hope so,
obviously,
after all the
major
work you've done on this
spoilers.
slideshow.
Yes. Oh, yes. Also, this show's been out for a while, but pretty major spoilers. Again, I
Well,
don't think
there's a good chance I might slip up and say stuff I don't mean to say.
Yeah.
Because everything has blurred together into a blob of cannibalism in your brain?
And I won't
Yes.
lie to you guys, a lot of the deaths are so cool and gnarly, it might be hard for me not to geek out about it, so.
Yes. So, yes.
Lest we forget she's the punk rocker.
Yes. So, general trigger warning. If you've heard of Hannibal, even if it's just the books and not necessarily the TV show or the movie, then you should probably have a good sense of what we're about to get into.
Fear
Gosh.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Fear Mads Mikkelsen.
So,
Gosh.
before we officially get started with the slideshow, this is kind of my intro part of the script. I am a psychology major. We're all psychology majors on this channel. And
It probably shows.
Yes.
Oh, most definitely.
And I specifically want to go into marriage and family therapy, which means I'm learning a lot about relationships, what are healthy, what are not, how they kind of work. And that has ruined my enjoyment of a lot of the shows that I have been watching, especially this one. So,
Me.
so welcome to Character Relationships in NBC's Hannibal, presented by me.
I can't imagine this could possibly go well, considering
Can
the
I
dude.
just, yes,
Oh,
any
no.
jokes we
Yeah.
make are because it is fictional. You know, obviously,
Yes.
most of the situations in the show are horrific, if they were even sort of realistic.
And
This is coping humor, not psychopathy humor.
Yes,
Yes.
we are all very much in the habit of coping by humor, yeah.
Yes. And I will say another thing to get out there that I feel might be somewhat important in terms of context of this. I am a Hanagram girly, but even that being said, I am going to kind of tear into Hannibal and Will's relationship near the end of the slideshow.
Because
So-
if she
Exciting.
didn't, then I would be concerned about her becoming a therapist.
Yes. But anyway,
Especially considering the context. Sorry, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's get going. All right, so
Oh no.
Chris already knows what's about to
Love
happen.
the actor. I love the actor.
Yes, we love the
Yeah.
actor, hate the character. This is Jack Crawford. He's one of the major side characters. You could almost call him a main character, but he's obviously not. He has kind of the most relationships with characters in the show. And I thought I'd kind of compare his work and life differences. He's a pretty decent husband. He calls his wife Bella, even though her real name is Phyllis, and there's a really cute story behind that. He and Phyllis were both stationed in Italy doing stuff for the Navy. And when Jack first saw Phyllis, all the Italian men kept calling her Bella, which meant beautiful, instead of her actual name. So now he calls her
Oh.
Bella. And it's actually really sweet, except as much as I'm sure that he loves her and she loves him, he's not that good of a husband. Um, he works too much. He is quite literally obsessed with his job. And he only at that point that we meet Bella and get a look into her and Jack's marriage and their relationship, um, it kind of seems like the two have been drifting apart for a really long time, or yeah, have been drifting apart for a really long time. And it doesn't help that then Phyllis gets, I think it's breast cancer, and ends up hiding
Ooh.
it from Jack for a really long time. And so that
Yeah, that seems like the
causes,
smart way to handle cancer.
yeah, and so that causes its own amount of problems and also coming together with the two. But um, and like I said, I'm sure Jack loves his wife. And there was one episode early on where it sounded like, or at least it felt like to me, like there was a possible conflict over whether or not they wanted to or were going to ever at some point have children. It was just that one episode though, and it was like one small conversation, and then we quickly moved on to more plot relevant details. So I don't know much about that. So that's his home life relationship, not the greatest. And now we move
Yeah.
on to his work relationship. He is the head of the
Um,
behavioral
actually,
science unit.
can I do a side note just
Yes.
briefly? Uh, I'm actively taking a marriage prep course that goes into the psychology, science, and studies of how to prepare effectively for a marriage and make sure you are ready and that the person that you are marrying is the best possible match for you.
Oh.
Um, and because I also want to be a marriage and family therapist, so I figured this would be a useful class to take
Heck yeah.
because maybe, just maybe, I can work with couples so that they don't come to me and say they want a divorce once they're already married. But anyway,
Relevant
so
stuff.
the conflict over children, I think that's a common one.
Mm.
Um, and I think it is really, really, really important for every single individual person to be upfront from minute one about whether or not they want kids. Um,
Yeah.
and your your feelings can change over time. You can go into a marriage wanting kids and end up not wanting kids or vice versa. Uh, but that needs to be a natural progression. And when you get married, it needs to be with someone who shares your um desire or lack thereof for children. I think
Yes.
that is one of the unhealthiest things you can do going into a marriage is know that the other person has different feelings about having children than you do and still get married anyway.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. I will say to provide a little bit more context to that point, he had just come off a case that involved children. Nothing bad happened to the children, just children were somehow got involved in the case.
We're talking about Hannibal, so we have to clarify.
Yes. The children are fine. It was just a kidnapping case. Um, he they finish up the case and he goes home. He and Phyllis are in bed, and he says something along the lines of, "Do you think there's ever a chance that we could have children?" So I think it's
Huh.
implied that they had maybe talked about the possibility of having children. And then Phyllis kind of brushes it off, saying, something along the lines of, "Even if we, even if we wanted to, it's or no, she said it's too late for me, and I think like 2 episodes later we learn about her cancer diagnosis. But yes, I do
Mm.
totally agree with you, Peony, that children, whether wanting to have some or not wanting to have any, is a very good and important conversation to have before I would say one even gets engaged, potentially.
Oh, definitely. I think
Yeah,
if you're
no.
seriously dating someone, you should let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should talk to them about it. And if their ideals about their future life do not match yours, the fact is, in order to have a successful marriage, you do need to be aligned on your lifestyle. Um,
Like the
and so it should,
morals.
that's
Well,
values.
yeah, values, right.
Yeah, but values and lifestyle are two different things, and whether or not you want to have children is part of lifestyle and is
Mm.
very important.
Yeah,
It's a whole new human, so it's something you definitely should take seriously.
definitely.
And I
And
happen to be a
yeah,
person who believes that children have the right um to uh all the parents in their home should want them. I believe
yes.
children have a right to that. Um so like I do not believe it is fair to the children, even if one parent wants children, to have kids with somebody who doesn't want kids.
Yeah.
Because
The
I think
studies
children have a
show.
right to be wanted.
Yeah, studies show that stuff like that messes people up like crazy.
Oh yeah, real bad.
Even if, we don't even need to bring personal stuff into it, but you feel it. Even if you don't have the words for what's going on, you know that in some sense you don't feel wanted if there's any hesitation from either parent. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There was never any hesitation from either of my parents, and that showed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it changed the way I adjusted growing up.
Oh.
Mhm.
And I will say, what was the comment you made? Um where she kind of made a comment about, it's too late for me. She could have been, because you can tell by respectfully, you can tell by the looks they're older adults.
Yeah.
She could have just mean like literally it wouldn't be safe to, or she literally cannot, carry a child.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah, you gotta get pretty late into adulthood for that. Like, you gotta be past
yeah,
menopause, but
yeah, and I don't know how she didn't seem that old to me, but she could also just be aging really well. I did want to say though, wasn't it his wife in real life, like the actor?
I can't remember. I would have to look that up
Because I
later.
remember you saying that, and I just thought that was really cute.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up later to double check.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, so that is his life relationship. We're gonna talk about his work relationship, which I care a lot more about. So he is the head of the behavioral science unit at the FBI Academy in Quantico, and he is all about results. That is made pretty clear that that is, if not the only thing, one of the biggest thing that he cares about in regards to his job. And because of his obsession with getting results, he gets put on forceful leave by the board at least twice, I think.
Oh, wow.
they really said, "We're done.
Maybe
We're done. Take a break.
Respectfully,
Get
even,
out."
I think he
if an
gets put
American
on leave three
institution says you're
times.
doing too much, then that really means you need a break.
Yeah, and I
That
don't,
means you could probably
yeah.
sue them. Well,
Yeah, and I don't even. I think. Yeah, I think he got put on forced leave 3 times because the board was doing like internal investigations because there was some other kind of shady, underhanded stuff going on with the other people, with the people that Jack was over. Sometimes under Jack's orders to do the shady stuff. But yeah, so yeah, the board doesn't necessarily like him, but he is good at his job. He gets the results, so they can't necessarily fire him if he's only been put on leave 3 times.
Yeah.
Um, Next is his treatment of Team Sassy Science, or TSS, which we'll get into, I think, in like the next 2 or 3 slides. And our main character, Will Graham. He kind of treats, it's kind of unfair to say that he sees Will as his golden child because he does not treat Will like a golden child. He's a lot harsher on Will than he is Team Sassy Science. And I you could make the argument, or no, it probably is the only argument that it is because of Will's empathy disorder that he is a lot harsher on Will. But it even if that is even if there
Empathy
are
disorder?
so yes, Will has this thing, or his empathy disorder is the fact that he has too much empathy. He can look at a crime scene or even just the crime scene photos, put himself in the killer's mind, and act out the murder step by step, word for word in his mind.
Yeah, that's not how that works, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was definitely something Daisy kept saying and like they kept mentioning in the show, and I'm like, okay, so they're definitely doing a supernatural in one way or another sense to this because it's definitely not a real thing. Like there are empathy disorders,
Yeah.
They
I
were
but
usually
that's
about
not a
a
real
lack
one.
of empathy.
That's like a super. I don't even know what to call that.
yeah, they call it empathy disorder,
Yeah,
but I
That's
think
just ESP,
yeah, I was gonna say
I don't know what that means.
I think it's
extra special powers,
yeah, I think it's
Yeah, there you
Hannibal
go.
who
something like
says
that.
it. I don't think Hannibal ever necessarily calls it an empathy disorder. He just says Will has too much empathy. But I don't think Hannibal ever uses the term empathy disorder. I think it's everybody else around Will that uses that term. But I can't remember exactly at this moment.
Also, how much does this distress Will?
Oh, his quote unquote empathy disorder is like the entire it's kind of the entire reason that this show you could say exists is Will's abundance of empathy. But yeah, his
Okay,
empathy
but does it
constantly.
distress him?
A lot.
Yes. Yes.
Very much
Okay,
so.
then yeah, we could call that a disorder.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Um
yeah. Especially because of the job he works in.
yes. Having to look at dead
Just move
bodies
away.
and oh, we're gonna get into that in just a few seconds. Um Jack
In the
is
wise words of Brad from OSP, just move away.
um Jack is also currently or not currently is obsessed with catching the Chesapeake Ripper, aka Hannibal, because he is the most prolific serial killer that the FBI, at least in his corner of the states, have been dealing with. And after a good little break of not killing anybody, uh, the Ripper starts killing again, and so that becomes kind of it doesn't become the only case that the team focuses on, but it does become the overarching case that becomes the focus, and it causes a decent amount of problems for these people. And I could go on a whole rant. Okay, I'm looking at my notes. I put could go on a whole rant about how much I hate this man. I'm not even joking. Chris can attest to this, but I'll save you the rant. You're welcome. Except I'm not going to save you the rant. So we're going to talk
I
about
was going to say, why are we doing this if you're going to save us the rants?
all right, Jack Crawford and Will Graham. I have extensive notes and they're all in bullet point form. So I'm just going to start reading them off and we're going to try and make sense of them as we go.
Oh, I wonder how much of this you'll actually remember. That's fantastic.
All right. In season 1, Jack claims to care about Will's mental health and even invites Hannibal in because Hannibal is a well respected therapist and he wants Hannibal to be Will's like anchor point, like keep him stable.
Oh
Um
boy, here we go.
except even though Hannibal kind of repeatedly tells Jack or alludes to Jack that Will is the exact opposite of stable, there's even a case where Will himself near the end of it is like, I can't do this anymore, Jack. Like this is screwing with my mind. Like I am not sane. No matter what Hannibal is telling you, I am not sane and stable enough for this. And Jack proceeds to guilt trips Will into staying with the job despite knowing it is literally tearing Will apart mentally.
It's literal manipulation of someone who is not in the mental state to say no. So
Yes,
it's um unconsensual. Is that even the right way to put it?
I
But
would
like
say
it,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely
it's
not
coercion.
consensual. Yep, coercion. That's the
Yeah.
word. That's
And
what you're looking for.
he is just generally a terrible boss when it comes to Will. There was one case where they were trying to figure out why a guy was killing, and Jack, I can't even remember the full interaction, but Jack kept like asking Will all these questions, and Will was giving like what answers he could, and Jack said something about like, well, I don't like what you're telling me because it doesn't make sense. And Will straight up says something along the lines of, well, if you don't like my answers, why do you come up with some yourself? You're the head of the behavioral science unit. Will legit tells Jack that Will is doing Jack's job for him, and Jack isn't liking the results that Will is giving him in this present moment. So why doesn't Jack go and do his own job as head of this unit? And
That's
Jack
funny.
proceeds to get angry at Will and send everybody else away, and then lectures Will. I can't remember if this is before or after the guilt tripping case, but yeah, we
He
don't
guilt
like
tripped
Jack.
him multiple times.
Yes, and
It was
keep in
like in
mind,
almost every conversation,
yes,
yeah.
and keep in mind these 3 bullet points were just season 1. Now we get into season 2.
Oh gosh.
So for context, and this picture is also from season 2, Will gets framed for a bunch of murders that Hannibal committed, and we'll get into more of that later when we talk about Will and Hannibal's relationship. So we're just gonna ignore that for now.
Exciting.
He give him a pass. Okay. He refuses to listen to Will when Will repeatedly tells him that I'm innocent, someone's framing me. And the only reason I'm giving Jack a slight pass or slight forgiveness for not believing Will's several claims to innocence is because Will got diagnosed with encephalitis about 2 or 3 episodes, I want to say, before the end of season 1. So,
Clarify for me and the audience at home what the heck that is, thank you.
Oh, you can't just say that. I was like,
yeah,
wait.
I'm trying to remember. It has something to do with, it's kind of like, I think they said it was like a tumor or something that
Oh my
grows in your
gosh.
brain and can affect your memory. I think it can cause blackouts, and it causes I think it causes hallucinations.
I have looked it up. A serious inflammation of the brain, typically caused by viral infections.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that's cancer. Itis is usually swelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly, but yes.
Autoimmune, yeah.
Autoimmune. Oh, that's bad.
Autoimmune reactions causing symptoms like
Autoimmune.
fever, sorry, headache, confusion, and seizures.
No, baby girl, I just like to make fun of you. You know this by now.
Yeah.
Ayo.
So on top with Will's too much empathy and putting himself in the mind of killers, and also then you have the encephalitis on top of this,
He's got a virus in his brain.
I do get Jack not believing Will's several claims to innocence, but I feel Jack handled his dismissals of it too harshly. But that could just be because I already hate this man. Um,
I don't exactly know how to frame it, but the way Jack acts is very, very common. Um, and I'm trying to think of a way to say this that doesn't sound like super basic and like very Gen Z. Um, but it's definitely a toxic working mindset. He's
yeah,
not open to other people's emotions. He doesn't understand why Will is having issues with the things he's having issues with because he doesn't have those issues, you know?
So
yeah,
basically, we're putting a character with way too much empathy up against a character with not nearly enough empathy. Interesting.
And this
yeah,
is the, and
basically,
Jack, the way he acts is very common for people his age. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
yeah,
I think it's partly a generational thing, yeah.
I was going to say he follows the generational norms.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see here. After there is a heavy doubt and evidence that comes to light that kind of like casts doubt on the fact that Will might be guilty of these murders, Jack still drags his feet about getting Will out of prison. It takes a lot longer than was probably necessary to get Will out of the Baltimore State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, where they had put Will because of his empathy and encephalitis, and also because everybody thought that he was a serial killer.
Hey, real quick,
Valid crash out.
real quick question.
Yes.
What era is this set in?
I believe. Hold on, let me look it up. When is season 2 set?
It seems like it's modern day as of the show, so like
There's
2010s.
Hannibal.
Because like all the technology's modern to the
Season
time.
Yeah, I don't think we really do
2
criminally insane as a
set.
label anymore.
Oh, we do.
Let's see here.
We don't do it as a credible label anymore.
All right.
Like,
What would you call it?
All right. Let's see here. Season 2.
I guess we do use it, but like,
I'm just trying to figure out what that. That wasn't me being sassy. Sorry if it came across that way.
No, you're
yeah.
good.
The thing is, it's not the criminally part. It's not the criminally part we don't really use. Criminally insane is a term that's like used in legal, but used in psychology, no. We do not really do that anymore.
All right. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember.
Like, insanity or crazy or that kind of thing is really not a term that's used anymore.
Okay. Let's see here. Season 2 takes place, or all of season 2 takes place within the span of 2 weeks.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's said, or it's assumed that season 2 takes place sometime between December of 2013 and February of 2014.
I don't know if they're trying to do this from a legal perspective or a psychology perspective, but I'm sure we do have criminal insanity detention centers. I'm sure we do. But I
They're
really
definitely
don't.
not as common, but yeah.
They're definitely not as common, and I really don't think we use them for brain infections.
Yeah, everybody else that, from what we're alluded to, everybody else that is in the uh Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane, everybody else that got through in there are confirmed serial killers, and because everybody assumed Will was the serial killer, he got thrown in there.
I don't think he got thrown in because of the brain infection, but
Yeah, but the
because he wasn't really aware of what was going on when he had the infection, he wasn't able to
defend himself.
yeah, about stuff that happened when he was dealing with all that stress, both
Yeah,
physical and mental.
yeah. And then near the end of season 2, when Will is out, Jack straight up uses Will to get to Hannibal. He has Will playing double agent. He's having him get friendly with Hannibal while also working to catch him. And that comes with its own set of problems, as we will again later see when we talk about Will and Hannibal's relationship. So that's so that's all of season 2. All right, season 3 notes are all in caps. So get ready. Jack.
Gosh.
Jack guilt trips Will out of retirement, actively pushes him back toward Hannibal to get Will's thing back, despite knowing how bad Will and Hannibal's relationship went down and all the manipulation that went on. Hannibal even wrote a note to Will while in prison warning him that Jack might do this. Jack also knows what he's doing and doesn't give a crap, has let his obsession with catching serial killers, specifically the Chesapeake Ripper and Red Dragon, shatter any moral code he had and clouds his judgment, especially when it comes to Will and his empathy. And season 3 is the season that truly made. I already hated this man just on season 1 and 2 alone, but season 3 just solidified my need to kill this man slowly and brutally.
I think you've been watching serial killers a little too much, dear.
I probably have. I started watching Supernatural season 8 again too, so murder is a lot on my mind right now because I want to kill so
That's
many
concerning.
people. It is very concerning. Um we're just going to move on. All right, so now we're talking about Will Graham and Team Sassy Science. From
Love the name.
right
I
to
don't think we're allowed to make murder threats even towards fictional characters in public.
Welp.
Oops.
All right. So in the picture of Team Sassy Science, we have from right to left, and I'm hoping I put these names in the right order.
Bruh.
We have Jimmy Price on the far left. We have Beverly Katz in the middle. And wait, no, I mixed that up. Jimmy Price is on the left. Beverly Katz is in the middle. And Brian Zeller is on the right. If I screwed that up, I will make an editing note. But they are Team Sassy Science. It's kind of, and I say they would be. I say that they are that these four are would be besties because I am fairly confident that if Will didn't have the empathy and the encephalitis and everything else that this job is doing to him going on, he's Will isn't even a real FBI agent. He's a teacher at the FBI university who gets brought in as a special agent because he's a good profiler. So I am fairly certain that if Will stayed as a teacher and didn't get pulled in to help with cases, he and Team Sassy Science could be a good group of friends. I think that they would get along pretty well if Will didn't have everything else going on. But even that being said, you are pitting an introvert in the form of Will Graham against three extroverts. And I will say, Jimmy and Brian are the most extroverted people I have ever seen in terms. Yeah, Jimmy and Brian are pretty extroverted. It is like opposite ends of the spectrum if you look at just those two and then you look at Will Graham. Like, it is very much opposite ends of the spectrum of how socially involved you are, or however we want to say that.
Understood.
Yes. So yes, you have the Team Sassy Science or TSS are real FBI agents, and then you have Will as the special one because it's kind of alluded to the small possibility, and this is not confirmed, and this is me looking at what people involved with the project and what the fandom has kind of gathered. It is kind of alluded or assumed that Will might be somewhere on the autism spectrum. And with
Oh,
that,
cool.
along with
Great.
the problem with empathy, and I think a few other things that they never really named, Will didn't pass the requirements or the test to become a real agent. Um, you also have Will's trauma. You have the difference in relationships with Jack Crawford, and you have the season two, what I call the season two jail arc, when Will has been framed and stuck in jail. Um, while he's in jail, Jimmy and Brian kind of almost immediately write him off as guilty because the evidence that has been planted is just too much. Um, and Beverly is kind of the only one who holds on to a little bit of reasonable doubt, enough that she enough that Will trust her to look for more clues that prove his innocence, which I think is really nice. And I think those two especially could be best friends if Will didn't have everything else going on. Um, all right, so now we're gonna move on to Alana and the boys. A lot,
Whoa, okay. Sorry.
yes. Alana for the first season was it kind of seemed like they were writing her as like the main love interest for Will. There were a lot of scenes where Will and Alana were pretty close, not just in terms of like physically, but also like there might have been a little something that might have portrayed them as more than friends.
Do you want to explain who she is and where she came from and why she's relevant
Yes.
a little bit?
So Alana Bloom is another I can't remember if she's a therapist or a psychiatrist. But
Mm.
she is a colleague of Hannibal Lecter. She is. She's involved with the with Jack's FBI team, not to the extent that Hannibal and Will are, but she definitely is called by Jack to consult, especially when it concerns Will Graham, because I think it's alluded to that they had known each other for a while before the show like officially started. Um, and so yeah, she gets involved in a lot of major plot points and becomes a pretty big character, especially as the show goes on. Um, but in terms of season one, as we see Will progress in his job and we see Alana's care for him, um, the scene in the picture with Will and Alana, they're having a conversation about the fact that Will has a crush on Alana, and
But
Alana might have some semblance of a crush on Will, but then proceeds to tell Will that they would not be good for each other because Will has all his problems going on, and in her own words, if I remember correctly, would be too focused on analyzing Will for it to actually be a healthy relationship in her eyes and thinking. Which
No,
is
that's valid.
yeah,
Understood.
because
Have
you've
a
got
nice
a
day.
dude with like a superpowers, basically. Like how respectfully.
yeah. And then during the season 2 arc or season 2 jail arc, when Will is still actively in jail, they become kind of frenemies. One second.
Oh.
Um, while Will is in jail, Alana is kind of she's not completely hostile toward Will because she still cares about him and is she's not entirely convinced that someone is framing Will, but she is willing to believe it, even if it's just for the sake of getting Will to calm down and stop talking about it. And then Will gets released, and they go back to being. I put besties, but they kind of go back to just being like friends. Like I wouldn't say they're not surface level friends, but they're not BFFs either. They're friendly with each other, and then season 3 they go back to being frenemies again because Hannibal has happened. Is the best way to describe it. Um, in terms of Hannibal's relationship with Alana, it goes from just colleagues who both care about Will, and then season 2, it gets real kind of weird. It's unsure what his real motives. Hannibal does pursue a romantic, probably not romantic, but he pursues some type of relationship with Alana that isn't just friends. I think it might be friends with benefit, but I'm not exactly sure if there's other benefits than the normal type that you get in this relationship.
But
But his real motives for pursuing this relationship are kind of unclear. Um, I'm pretty sure he's using her to get back at Will because Will. I can't remember if Will like officially rejected him for something at the end of season 1 before he got imprisoned, but I'm fairly certain that Hannibal is using Alana against Will. Um,
He's having his bisexual disaster arc. I get it.
yeah, and since he knows, and I will say, when Alana and Will have their conversation about having crushes on each other, they do kiss. And then Will immediately calls Hannibal to tell him that Will kissed Alana because he's like freaking out about it. He either calls Hannibal or straight up shows up at Hannibal's house to tell him that he kissed Alana and is freaking out about it, which is kind of hilarious. So in my mind, Hannibal possibly sees Alana as the next best thing to Will because he has framed Will and thrown Will in jail for his crimes. Except even after Will gets out of jail, he and Alana still are pursuing their relationship. Um, and it's entire yeah. Hannibal's relationship with Alana is a lot more convoluted. Um, and a lot more intricate than what I've written here, and I can't remember all the ins and outs of it. And honestly, I don't really care to because their relationship was weird and kind of
Right.
unnecessary.
It was
Honestly, it
definitely
really sounds like they didn't know what personality to give Alana other than has to be with men or has to be dancing around men.
they gave her a little
Yeah.
bit of something towards the end, but for the most part, it did kind of seem like that.
Yeah.
I
Clocked
will,
it.
I will say, what was I gonna say? Okay, so
Will you say question mark?
question mark. We'll see. Um, Hannibal definitely only got with her because he knew it would affect what's his face.
Well.
And yes. And oh my gosh, I had the words for this 2 seconds ago and they're leaving me. Um he knows Will doesn't have a lot of friends. He knows that she is someone who Will cared about. And so he, did what he did knowing it would hurt Will and maybe even thinking it would bring him closer to Will in a weird
Now that you
sense.
bring that up, that is definitely a reason for it, and we get into that later in the slideshow, like we will with a lot of things. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Oh my.
So yeah, that's Alana and the boys. And now we're gonna get into Hannibal and Bedelia.
Except
Um,
no, we're not because we need a water break.
I actually did drink water while you were talking, but I will take another drink for you because I love
Thank
you.
you. I love you. Thank you. Mwah.
Shall we use the Discord soundboard um to announce water time?
Honestly, yes, let's do it.
Can it be the duck?
Yes, let's do it.
I mean also
Honestly, just anything, right?
Yeah, let's go
it
for
could
it.
be
Anytime
anything.
we hear a
We'll just use
sound.
the
Air
soundboard.
horn. Yeah, we'll just something will happen. That means urgent interruption.
All right.
Urgent interruption, swallow fluids. Do it now.
All right. So now let's
This is for
meet.
everyone watching as well, not just.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to drink water too. Do
Mhm.
it. Do it
All
now.
right.
Do it.
So now we're going to meet Bedelia. She is another therapist and a well-known, or she's another colleague of Hannibal, and their relationship is a lot more friendly and more personal than Hannibal's relationship with Alana.
She's a
From
baddie. I love this girl.
yeah, from the way that uh that some conversations are worded between Bedelia and Hannibal, it sounds like they were as close to BFFs as these two people could get, given their professions.
I feel like she
Um,
was a very, very intelligent person put in a really weird situation.
oh,
Yeah, I
definitely.
heard a few situations weirder than whatever the heck is going on in this show.
Yeah, I definitely think if the show wasn't put in the point of view that it was, and if it was more centered on Bedelia, I do think we would have I do think it would have been very interesting and we would have seen a lot more of the intelligence she seemed to have written into her than we actually do because she is another important side character, but she shows up like sometime near the end of season 1. She disappears for like the whole of season 2 and then she comes back again for season 3. Like we ignore her for basically a complete season.
I never forgot her though. She was very memorable.
Yeah. So Hannibal and Bedelia's relationship is kind of a weird one, and I'm not entirely sure what's happening between these two. It's kind of alluded that Bedelia might have once, at some point before the show started, that she loved him or had a crush on him. Um, and
Huh.
then at the beginning of season 3, we find out that Hannibal has, I'm not sure if kidnapped is the right word because we're not explicitly told whether or not Bedelia did want to come with him, but Hannibal ends up fleeing the country and takes Bedelia with him.
Pretty sure it was kidnapping.
Yeah. And it's not. Yeah. And from conversations, it seems like Bedelia might still love him, but I'm like 50%, 75% sure that any love she was portraying toward him was a move to stay alive and not end up on his dinner table while in France and Italy.
Right.
Um, Hannibal, it's kind of made clear that Hannibal does not like being alone. And since he can't have a Will or Alana post season 2, he decides to take Bedelia instead because he has some semblance of a relationship with her outside of
He's an
He has a
extrovert.
problem. What he has is a problem.
yes.
Very much so.
While
To
in
preface, yeah.
yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, she was his therapist, right?
No, they were both therapist. Actually, no, she was his therapist for a good chunk of time. Yeah, I forgot about that. She
Well, yeah,
was
she
acting
treated
as his
him,
therapist for a
which
good
is
chunk of season
why
1.
she got in that situation.
I
Yeah.
think.
That's right.
Maybe she's not that smart after all, because clearly she missed something.
She
Yeah,
stopped treating him because she realized he was cray cray, and then
yeah,
he kind of kidnapped her, so.
yeah. Bedelia, I'm gonna say this isn't the slideshow to go into Bedelia's character, but Bedelia is a very interesting person, and I would definitely recommend looking at some of like scene packs of her. She's a pretty interesting character with a pretty intensive backstory. I will say that. But while in Italy, which is the first part of season 3, she and Hannibal kind of act like their own twisted version of besties since Hannibal did kind of kidnap her and they're hiding out under stolen identities while in Italy. They straight up stole a dude's identity after killing him. Um
Don't worry about it.
and if I didn't want Will and Hannibal to be a thing, I do think that Hannibal and Bedelia, if not a healthy couple, could be definitely an interesting couple to see.
I don't think Hannibal is capable of participating in a healthy couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think these two would be a very interesting couple to see. At some point, uh, after in like the last half of season 3, after Hannibal's been thrown in prison because yay, we found out that he's a Chesapeake Ripper and we actually have him now. Will calls Bedelia the Bride of Frankenstein because of her time in France and Italy with him. And Bedelia straight up says that she and Will have both been Hannibal's bride.
Very, very like romance aside, that's weird.
Yeah, I love I love Bedelia so much.
I
Um
just like how that picture makes him look tiny.
yeah.
Oh,
All
look,
right.
the only, like, actually safe people.
Yes. Welcome to the only healthy and sane relationship in this entire show. And I
Pretty
will
much,
say,
yeah.
given the show, the bar for a healthy and sane relationship is very low, but this woman raises that bar, and I love her for it.
The bar in
Um,
this show is a limbo pole in hell.
yes. So this doesn't give you a good shot of her face, but this lovely woman here is Molly. She has a 11-year-old kid named Walter from previous marriage, and she loves collecting stray dogs.
Bruh.
Just like
Clearly, she likes collecting gay dogs too.
Oh.
I mean, look at that.
yes. Will also likes to collect stray dogs, and so they kind of have a semblance over that. There is a 3-year time jump between the first half of season 3 and the last half of season 3. So we don't get to see their dating life or how their marriage went down or much of we don't get to see any of their relationship aside from when Hannibal starts to be involved with stuff again, which is kind of
You
sad.
mean, like, the relationship before the marriage?
Yes, we don't get to see the
Leaving.
relationship before the marriage, but from the way Will is smiling and seems peaceful, this is he struck gold with this woman. And I believe that he
So what
knows it.
happens to her?
Nothing happens to her, something happens to Will, and we will get into that later. But Will and Molly is the first relationship, and I will preface this. I use relationship kind of as a fairly broad term. I don't use it to refer to any specific type of relationship. But Will and Molly's relationship is the first one that shows truly reciprocated love. Will loves Molly, Molly loves Will. It's beautiful and it's healthy. She is also kind of the first. She is also the first person to, at least in what we see in the episodes, to provide Will with a truly safe space to just relax and not have to worry about the FBI. It helps that he is since retired when he and Molly get together. But she does provide him a truly safe space. She even, I can't remember. I think they even completely moved states from where Will had been staying before. They moved to like a completely separate area. So to like truly get Will like as far away from the trauma as they possibly can, which is really nice. She also gives him a family in the form of herself and Walter, and gives him a truly supportive support system. We love this woman. Molly is the best. I love this girl. And if I didn't want Will and Hannibal to get together, I would be rooting for them. In fact, I am rooting for them. I'm a Hanagram girly, but I am rooting for Will and Molly. They are the best relationship. I love them so much. All right, so now we're going to get into the two most important relationships in Hannibal: Hanagram and cannibalism. This is where the trigger warning.
Cannibalism is an entire relationship in this game or show. I'm tired.
Kind of.
In my defense,
Um,
I'm also running through dispatch slideshow ideas while we do this.
heck
Bruh.
So,
yeah, mood.
listen, I love to multitask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What I heard was Molly good. Molly real good.
Yes, Molly is real good. So Hanagram is a toxic relationship that we root for because it's fictional, and so therefore we know, and so therefore we recognize that this is not a good relationship to have IRL, but we love it anyway because yes. And
I
there's
fear I
also
am stuck shipping Will and Molly because they are the only healthy relationship, and also because I could make their ship name Willie. So,
that's
um,
adorable. But yes, if you are not a Hanagram girly, which I totally get, I'm also a Will and Molly girly. Will and Molly is the relationship that we should be rooting for, and that we should be
Willie,
trying to find in real life. Will and Molly is, I probably
Willie,
wouldn't say is the standard, but is a good standard for a healthy relationship to have in real life.
Willie.
Alrighty. Alright, so now we're gonna talk about Hannibal's relationship with cannibalism. The text on the screen I got from a Instagram post by at uffizi.d.florentia, who reposted a screenshot by at omnivcrisal on over on X/Twitter. And I'll hopefully see if I can link the post I got it from in the description. But basically, cannibalism as a metaphor for love and Hannibal should not be in the same sentence, by the way. Cannibalism and Hannibal is used as a metaphor for domination or power, sure, but not love. He does not love the people he ate. It is kind of like the complete opposite, actually. Misha, I hear you cry. Misha is Hannibal's sister. He didn't eat Misha because he loved her. He ate Misha because he had no choice or agency. That's why he eats others, to regain the power he lost in that moment. Also, Hannibal wanting / attempting to eat Will in season 3 is no different. It was a desperate grasp for control after Will betrayed him yet again. Just because Hannibal loved Will and Hannibal attempted to eat Will does not mean those two things are mutually inclusive.
Something music of the night?
Potentially. And to give more context on Misha, Misha was Hannibal's little sister.
We should
When they
probably
were
give the context first.
honestly, we probably should have. But
Sorry.
Misha is Hannibal's younger sister. When they were both children, they came from a wealthy family in Lithuania. It is not exactly expanded on as to what happened to the family, but Hannibal and Misha were forced to run away from home. And while they were running, they got captured by men and were starved. The kidnappers then killed Misha, turned her into a soup, and fed Hannibal without telling him it was Misha first. After they told him
Bruh.
that he had eaten his sister, he murdered, I think there were 3 kidnappers. He murdered 2 of them and locked one up in the dungeons of what once was his family's castle, I think we can call it. And then he,
Why does his family have a castle?
because there's
What
a,
era is this set in?
I don't know, but
Rich people.
yeah, we actually get a look at the castle in season 3, and from the looks of it, it is safe to assume that the Lecter family came from old Lithuanian money or possibly some old royal line in Lithuania.
Rich people in Europe can afford castles, so.
Yes. There's
So
something
what
else
I'm
I wanted
hearing
to say.
is this is just a reskinned vampire hunting show.
Kind
Pretty
of.
much. Well, I
Um
always thought of it as that because, vampires are not that far from cannibals. They're technically cannibals.
yeah.
Cannibals just be eating more of the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
That's the
They're
only
just less
difference.
wasteful.
Yeah. And I will say like this somewhere in it they said it, and I'm not bothering to find it again. But Hannibal's whole moral code, I guess you could call it, for who he kills is eat the rude. So he one of the people that he kills wanted to turn a park or part of a forest into a massive parking lot, and so he died.
He said, you gotta go.
Yes, everyone that Hannibal killed under the name Chesapeake Ripper, he thought somehow was rude. It's not exactly we're not exactly told what he defines as rude. Um but if you kind of look at the individual cases of people he killed, you do kind of start to get a sense of what Hannibal considers rude, which is
It
very
could be as
interesting.
much as you have hurt and harmed other people, so he's gonna hurt and harm you.
Yeah.
Or it could literally just be you gave him stank face and he thought that was rude, you know?
Wait,
Yeah.
hang
So,
on. I have an OSP clip for this. I have an OSP clip for this. One
oh my
second.
gosh.
I always have an OSP clip.
That is
But
unhinged.
but I'm looking for a specific one. Give me a second.
Yeah. So I was just
Load.
trying to find that. I will
Load.
say Hannibal, he does see the people that he kills in his own, either in his own words or in the words of a couple other characters talking about the Ripper. Hannibal does see his victims as nothing more than pigs who deserve to die. That being said, he does consistently turn every one of his victims into some form of like artwork, which is kind of beautiful in a very morbid sense. Um but yeah, there's
Lovely.
Hannibal. Yeah, Hannibal and his relationship with cannibalism is pretty interesting.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
Might one say Hannibalism.
Honestly, that's another thing. The amount of cannibal jokes Hannibal made throughout season 1, and I think even season 2, and no one even raised any form of suspicious eyebrow is ridiculous. with the amount of cannibalism jokes this man has made, how has he stayed under the radar for this long? It is
Because he's cute.
ridiculous. It is ridiculous, dude. My goodness. Were
I
you
mean, I
able?
guess if you joke about it long enough, no one.
Yeah.
They're just like, boy who cried wolf, I guess.
Were you able to find the clip, Peony?
I did. I just found it. Hang on, hang on, hang on.
A.
Hey, stop that. Stop that. Oh, come on. I just got the timing right. I just opened up the transcript and got the timing just right. And now YouTube has to spite me.
All right, hold on. We're gonna stop sharing for a second. I will put a cover over. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you. 1 second. It's literally just one stupid little quote
Girl.
and like a second. I know. I know. See, while pop culture loves the Stop doing that. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Interesting snapshot of the man behind the mad science. See, while pop culture loves the idea of Mr. Hyde as a kind of superpowered evil split personality, like the Hulk but short, the truth is actually more unsettling. Dr. Jekyll is rich, smart, cultured, healthy, and well respected, but all his life he has struggled with nebulous and unspecified base urges. What exactly these base urges are is literally never described, but given Victorian standards of decency, it could be anything from cannibalizing orphans to doing drag. Let's not get
There it is. That's the quote. It could be anything from cannibalizing orphans to doing drag.
Okay, that was worth it.
I love that. That was beautiful.
Specifically referring to the things Hannibal sees as rude. The things Hannibal sees as rude. Anything from cannibalizing orphans to doing drag.
I
Yes,
won't say he's a poor
honestly.
sense of character according to his morals. He's got a pretty good um
Yeah.
framework considering, if you could even call it that. Like he's
Yeah.
not reckless. Um
Yeah. I will
which
say,
it just sounds so weird because what he's doing is absolutely
yeah.
insane, but
I also will say he is pretty
He's insane,
emotionally
but like in a
stable.
neighborly way.
Yeah. All things considered, Hannibal is one of the more emotionally stable characters in
I think it's
this
cuz he's
show.
more or
He's
less sociopathic. Like
he's an
Yeah.
he's
he's an upstanding Victorian gentleman who struggles with nebulous base urges.
literally he is.
Yeah.
That's how he acts, bro. That's pretty much it.
Okay, we got the slideshow back
too
up.
Uh, we do now. All right. So we
Okay.
talked about cannibalism and Hannibal. Now to talk about Will
Cannibalism.
and his relationship with cannibalism. His relationship is unclear. It kind of seems to be the thing that Hannibal has been pushing him towards since the start. I wouldn't say since the start of the relationship, since the end of the probably the season 2 jail arc. Um, near the
He
end of
doesn't want to be the only one.
yes, near the end of the show when it seems like Will is starting to accept the fact that he might have some cannibalistic urges, it becomes coined by Will himself as his becoming. Um, and that kind of raises two questions. Is this becoming a pure product of Hannibal's manipulation, or was it only a matter of time? If Will had kept working with the FBI and had kept going to the mind of serial killers, it was only a matter of time before Jack had him look at a Ripper case. And if he looked at a Ripper case, who it was kind of established early on that they knew that the Ripper was a cannibal. If Will hadn't gotten treatment for his encephalitis and hadn't gotten any form of help, would it have only been a matter of time before Will did willingly himself gave into cannibalistic urges? And
I honestly
this
feel like sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was I was just going to say I feel like most people if you've been exposed to a certain amount of things, you would do basically anything. Um, and especially for a dude whose his mental state is what it is, it's easier for him to get manipulated into doing the things he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you just start being a cannibal.
Yeah.
I
I honestly
there
think it would be a lot easier to convince an average person to do that, but it would take a crazy manipulator. The point of the show, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I forgot to give a warning, but yes, there's a picture. So now we're gonna look at
Beautiful.
Hanagram through the eyes of Hannibal. It is looking at. I have heard people say that if you rewatch the show and you look at it through the eyes of Hannibal, it becomes some sort of twisted rom com and not a thriller type of show, which I think is incredibly hilarious. Um, but Hannibal does see his relationship with Will, given all its ups and downs, as a real relationship based on love. In his, a lot of fans have
love
pointed
in
out,
massive air quotes.
yes, fans have said that if you look at their first meeting, Will and Hannibal's first meeting when Jack brings Hannibal in to psychoanalyze Will, um, fans have pointed out that if you look at Hannibal's eyes, you can, if not, if it's not love that you can see in his eyes, it's some form of like interest that might border on romantic. They don't.
Hi, we call that obsession. That's called
Yes.
obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have an official patient therapist relationship, but they are acting in those roles. And so that gets a little bit messy, but Hannibal doesn't doesn't care about that when it comes to Will. He definitely finds Will
Yes, clearly.
Huh?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah. He definitely finds Will interesting because of his abundance of empathy, and then on top of that, you also mix in the encephalitis. So he definitely thinks Will is an interesting character if he isn't fully in love with him. Then enter Anthony Dimmond, aka the French Will Graham. um,
Okay, wait. I'm so sorry. But try and remind me later
mhm.
of the facts of obsession, how they go about it in this show, because there's some stuff I'd like to talk about, but it's for a later time. Yeah.
Yes. So while Hannibal and Bedelia are on the run in France, Hannibal meets Anthony Dimmond, the man pictured below, at some form of art gallery or something. Um, and fans very quickly pointed out that not just in terms of his looks, but in terms of his mannerism and characteristics, Anthony does seem like he would be a suitable replacement for Will Graham in Hannibal's life. Except that doesn't really matter because then when Hannibal runs to Italy and Antony somehow also ends up in Italy later, Hannibal kills Antony, which is kind of kind of hilarious, I will
Rebound.
say. Yes, unsuccessful rebound with the French Will Graham. Um
Well, of
and
course he was unsuccessful. He's French.
yes. Um
Unhinged.
on top of that, you also have like the previous, like the post I read out when we were talking about Hannibal's relationship with cannibalism. Will kind of betrays Hannibal a couple times. He betrays him when he works as double agent for Jack and Hannibal uh, near the end of season 2. He betrays Hannibal again in that same time in season 2 when he doesn't run away with Hannibal after Hannibal straight up reveals to him kind of who he is and what he is. And there's a few other instances of betrayal that Hannibal sees and acknowledges and kind of gets some gets various forms of quote unquote revenge on Will for, but he does
I'm like,
very much.
is that actually betrayal or Hannibal? Or are you just a freak?
Yes,
Both?
he sees it as betrayal, but because he is very mentally um um um
Interesting.
Funky.
yeah.
Yes.
It's a very, I keep saying sociopath, but I don't know what else to say. It's betrayal in
Um,
a way that a very possessive, prideful person would see betrayal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
yeah. So possibly antisocial personality disorder, which
Yes,
is the
definitely.
actual term
Definitely.
for sociopathic symptoms. There's also psychopathy, but he seems too emotion driven to be actually psychopathic.
That's the
Yeah.
weird part.
And actually, I'm just about to get
So
into that.
antisocial personality disorder probably.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And speaking of emotions, the post here on the right is from It's 8 o'clock somewhere on Tumblr.
That's hilarious.
I will also, I think I have the link saved to this account as well, so we'll also try and link that in the description. And it says, fun fact, the average male heart weighs approximately 300 grams, while the average male brain weighs approximately 1,400 grams, which means that the judge's brain should be outweighing the heart on the scales by at least 4 times, except it isn't, which means that
Huh.
Hannibal purposely set up this tableau to have the heart outweigh the brain, just like how his own heart, feelings for Will, has started to outweigh his brain, strategic thinking. And this is
Ah.
sometime in the middle of season 2 when when we see, like, when we're well into seeing that Hannibal actively regrets framing Will for the murders that Hannibal committed, which is,
Hope he regrets it. It's
yeah,
fucked
which
up,
is
dude.
very fun.
Well, that's messed up.
Yeah. Um,
Wouldn't that be effed up or what? Anyway.
so now we're gonna talk about Hanagram through the eyes of Will. Although I will say this isn't technically looking at Hanagram through the eyes of Will. It's just Will's view on his relationship with Hannibal is a lot more convoluted and pretty much a lot more unclear. So I'm kind of using this to fit in everything else that I couldn't necessarily find a suitable place for. And we're going to be kind of looking at this in 2 parts. The first part is symbolism and isolation, and then we'll get to the second part of this a little later. So first, we're going to
Caller.
talk about symbolism. 2 of the most common hallucinations slash dreams that Will has is Hannibal turning into a Wendigo, which is pictured here on the far right.
Is that
And
confirmed what it's supposed to be?
yes, I actually did look this up while while me and Chris were watching the show. I kept referring to it as a demon or a devil. But it is confirmed somewhere, I don't remember where, that it is supposed to depict some form of a Wendigo, which makes
Well, if it
sense.
makes you feel any better, Wendigos are literally cannibalistic demons, so.
I was gonna say, yeah, it works that Will keeps having hallucinations of this Wendigo in tandem with, like, dreams or whatever, meetings with Hannibal.
Yeah.
It works perfectly. And
It
then,
makes sense.
yes,
When I
and
close
then
my
the
eyes.
creature depicted on the left of the Wendigo is a raven stag. That is officially what it's called everywhere that I can find it. The raven stag does not appear to be anything set in stone or set in any pre-existing mythology or folklore that I can find. Um, but thanks to the little information things I have in here, we're gonna kind of see maybe why a raven stag or a raven and a stag were chosen to be the animals merged to kind of represent Will's own mind and his hallucinations. According to Little Witchy's Garden, this is about what it means to kind of see a black stag in your dream. Seeing a black stag in your dream often means something wicked this way comes and it's preparing you. And it is often a dangerous warning sign. A black stag in dreams symbolizes resilience, spirituality, darkness, fear, awareness, and strength. Killing the Black Stag, which the Black Stag does die, quote unquote, in one of Will's hallucinations near the end of season 2, means that you'll overcome what challenges you. Staring at the stag is a simple warning of something coming that will, challenge you. Being chased or stalked by the black stag means you fear and are unprepared for the changes and challenges to come. And standing with the black stag means you accept and are prepared for what comes. And Will does everything that Little Witch's Garden listed various times throughout the show. The stag only, quote unquote, dies once, but everything else he does at least 2 or 3 times throughout each of the seasons.
Yeah.
And then a raven is said to symbolize intelligence as well as metamorphosis and transition. And Will goes through a lot of that. He is a very intelligent man, all things considered, with everything that's going on in his life. And he
Intelligent,
does.
but mildly insane.
Yes, and he does
Tends to
change.
happen that way.
Yes, and he does. Would you
They go hand
stop
in hand
that?
from time to time.
And he does change in various ways and forms throughout the show.
Yeah, he becomes cannibalistic. I'd say he changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I also have Little Witchy's post saved somewhere as well, so I'll also try and link that.
All of the credits.
Yes. Okay, now we're gonna get into isolation. This is actually a conversation that Will has with Hannibal before, like, near the end of season 2, before the whole final betrayal, final fight of the season goes down. It is kind of made clear that Hannibal wants to be the most important person in Will's life.
That's called abuse. Woo.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not going to go too much into Abigail, who's pictured here on the top left. She is a important character in season 1. And then she kind of disappears up until the end of season 2. But she's important because Will, after the case that involved her, Will kind of saw Abigail as kind of a surrogate daughter. And then in tandem with Hannibal framing Will for crimes that Hannibal had committed, he also makes Will think that Will killed Abigail. So he was going through all of that and was forced to lean more on Hannibal for emotional stability. And then it turns out Abigail isn't dead. She's actually been hiding out in Hannibal's house this entire time. Hannibal has convinced her that they're going to become kind of their own little family and flee the country together. But then when Will refuses to, or doesn't want to leave the country with Hannibal and Abigail, Hannibal kills Abigail for real and has finally taken one of the last kind of good things in Will's life at that point away from him permanently and forever. He isolates Will from Alana, like Chris was saying earlier, probably with the friends with benefits relationship that Hannibal starts with Alana. Separating.
I think that's the only reason he did that.
Probably.
He wanted to
yeah.
see what he saw in her, I guess.
Yeah. During he separates or he isolates Will from Beverly because in a more literal sense and kind of like with Abigail, he straight up kills Beverly during the season 2 jail arc because Will convinced Bev to look into his claims that Hannibal was the one framing Will for the murders that he was accused of committing. Will even tells Bev not to poke too deep or make it too obvious that she is poking around because Hannibal will kill her, and Hannibal kills her. He kills the one kind of friend that Will had during his time imprisoned at the state hospital. Isolating Will from Jack, I think, is one of the bigger good things to come out of Will and Hannibal's relationship in terms of isolation, because Jack sucks and we've already gone over that, so I'm not going to say much more. Other than that, I'm okay with Hannibal isolating Will from Jack. That should have happened a long time ago. And then this woman here at the bottom left is Margot Verger. She's important,
He's
but
in
not.
Smallville.
Yes. Her character is important, but also not that important. The most important thing about her is that she and Will end up possibly having a baby together. And Will he's not necessarily excited about it, but he's looking forward to it because he's gonna have some semblance of a family. This is all before he meets Molly. But then Hannibal puts it into the head of Margot's psycho and controlling and abusive brother to kill the baby that Margot and Will had together, therefore taking out another person that could potentially become more important to Will than Hannibal. So yeah, not great.
Oh, so now me and Hannibal have a personal vendetta.
Yes. All
I will
righty.
be doing atrocious things to that man in private fan fiction. But anyway.
All right, now is the second part of technically looking at Hanagram through the eyes of Will. We are currently about 7 or 8 weeks into the spring semester here as of recording. And I am taking a family and relationships class. And so these next slides up until the end are going to be things that we talked about or that were brought up during our classes, as well as my best translation of my notes and memories from said classes. So yes, ma'am. Drink your water, children.
Soleil. Soleil.
All right, and we're back. So yes, be prepared. This section is probably going to be a lot more rocky and interpretative than the last slides have been. But let's get into it. All right.
Interpretative.
Yes.
You bit it, huh?
as-
Wait, why are there Merlin pictures here?
we're
I
gonna get
don't.
into that. So
Ew, Freud, ew.
obviously
Ew.
we're taking a psychology
Ew.
class, so of course Freud gets brought up.
I don't know what that means.
Sigmund
oh.
Freud.
I dissociated so
More
hard.
specifically, we're talking about his pleasure principle, which is something along the lines of humans
all
tend
animals.
to animals tend to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Sometimes seeking pleasure just means avoiding pain. And it is not a weakness. It is and Freud doesn't see it as a weakness necessarily, but he sees it as a way to protect oneself. In terms of Hanagram, avoiding pain would be Will, because that seems to be the only thing he's focused on. And seeking pleasure is Hannibal, because he seeks to engage in a relationship with Will. What type of relationship that is, who knows? Probably something akin to whatever Hannibal thinks romance is. And the reason Merlin and Arthur are up here is because one girl in my class asked if the pleasure principle could be thought of as something akin to the two sides of the same coin idea. And that's really the only reason why why Merlin and Arthur are up here, because that was the first thing I could think of when it came to the two sides of one coin idea. So there you go.
You wanted to rage bait me. Good job.
No, that is like the only reason that those two are even included in this slide and presentation at all is because of the whole two sides of the same coin ideal, or a way of thinking.
I could think of more examples if you gave me like 2 days.
Oof. 2 days later.
I got
Alright.
nothing.
Alright, so now we're gonna talk about the Raven Stag and the Wendigo again. This we're actually gonna breeze through because I don't remember why I did this. But we were talking about the theory of the unconscious mind, and it is believed that the theory of the unconscious mind can be used to examine relationships. So if we kind of look back on the last slide about these two, where the Wendigo was obviously Hannibal, and the Raven Stag is obviously Will. If we look back at the scenes in which these two hallucinations appear, we get a pretty, not a sure sense, but we get a little bit of a better look into how Will views his relationship with both Hannibal and also kind of everything else that is going on in his life throughout these 3 seasons. All right, now we're going to talk about suppression versus repression. Um, Suppression is when you, if I remember correctly, is when you actively choose to ignore a memory. I don't remember if it has to be traumatic or not. But suppression is when you actively choose to ignore or push it back. And if you ignore it or push it back for long enough, it becomes repressed, meaning that while you might not remember exact details about the memory still affects your day-to-day life. I believe this is one of the it has to suppression and repression has to do with trauma responses a majority of the time. If you have a trauma response, it's because you have repressed the trauma, and even though you might not remember any of it, it's still affecting you in the form of trauma responses.
I don't honestly say that repression or suppression. Which one is like where you forget about it nearly completely?
that is
I already.
that is repression. It gets pushed to the very back of your mind, or it gets
So,
pushed back to the
That's very
unconscious
not
part of your mind.
common. It's not nearly as common as repression then. I
Yeah.
don't know. I felt like that was something that should be mentioned.
Yeah. Again, I don't for some reason I did not have a lot about this put on or written down in my notes, and I wish I had been better in that regard. Um but in terms of this,
do you not have a textbook?
no, we have assigned readings, and then we meet once a week and kind of talk about what's going on in the reading, but not the class structure is a little weird. But no, we and actually no, this wasn't even something that was brought up in our curriculum. This was just something that was brought up because she was telling us about stories and experiences she had with some of my patients, because my professor was a therapist before she became a teacher. Um, but in the terms of where did my notes go? Found it. All right. In the terms of Will, this man right here is Garrett Jacob Hobbs. He is Abigail's dad, and tries to kill Abigail, and then Will kills him. And he kind of haunts us for basically the entirety of season 1. His
Cool, I love
Will's
haunting the narrative.
Yes,
I do love that.
Will's killing of Garrett Jacob Hobbs is one of the various stones or stepping stones to the entire plot of the show. It's definitely one of the biggest, not the only one. But he keeps showing up and will a lot of the times is seen to actively trying to ignore um Garrett Jacob Hobbs. They always say his full name whenever they
I
talk
was
about
about
him,
to say
and it
that. It
annoys
was
me
really weird.
so much. Um, and
That's
then
Like
cursed, I like it.
how many Garretts do you come across that you feel like you need to say the whole name
I
every time?
don't know,
Garrett.
But yeah, so Will is actively trying to suppress the memory of killing
Suppress.
Suppress.
the
Suppress.
memory of killing Garrett Hobbs. And he seems to have done, by the time season 2 rolls around and Will is actively in jail, it could be argued that the only reason the memory of Hobbs could be argued to be repressed is because he has so much else, or Will has so much else going on in his life during the season 2 jail arc that he doesn't have time to think about Hobbs's murder. But after Will does get released from jail, we have one more scene. It's like maybe a few episodes before the end of season 2 where Hobbs shows back up again. I don't think necessary. No, Will was straight up about to attempt to kill another man, this time in self-defense, but Hobbs came back because Will is about to kill another man and is nervous and scared. Could possibly be argued that Hobbs showing up again in his mind is a form of trauma response. He's thinking back to the last time he had to kill a man, and that did not go well
PTSD.
for him. Yeah, PTSD. And I think that's all. Yeah, that's all I had on that. All right. Exposure therapy. Definitely self. Not prob. We probably wouldn't call what Will's doing during the last half of season 3 officially exposure therapy, but that's what I feel it is essentially is. He's after he retired, he kind of quote unquote lost touch with his abundant empathy, and he recognizes that if he
If you can just
starts
lose touch with it, that's not a disorder.
well, I'm trying to think. After he retired, he doesn't need to use his empathy as much, so he kind of just like ignores it. That probably still doesn't classify it as a disorder, but yeah. And he assumes and thinks that exposing himself to Hannibal again will help him get his thing, as Jack calls it, back. Obviously, the self-imposed exposure therapy fails spectacularly, and then Will goes down another mental spiral and helps Hannibal kill a man and dives off a cliff with him or something. The ending is ambiguous. We don't need to worry about that
Love
right now.
that.
But the self-imposed exposure therapy fails. That is all that is important for this slide.
Not used in the correct circumstances.
Nope, definitely not. All right, now we're going to talk about object relations theory, which
And I
is
know, well, we're not actually trying to be that serious, come on. But look at the way Mr. Mads is looking at Hugh in that picture. Get
yes.
yourself a man who looks at you like that, bro. That's all I'm saying.
I love you.
Funny. I'm so funny.
So object relations theory is looking at how your relationships with your parents and the people around you as a child influence your relationships with people in your adult life, friend, romantic, familial, all types of relationships. We're not exactly told all that much what Will's relationship with his parents was like. He never knew his mom. He does not expand any further than that when it gets brought up. He does not say if she died, if she left after he was born. He just never knew his mom, and it is unclear what happened to her. And all that we're told about his dad is that he and his dad moved around the country a lot fixing boats, and we don't necessarily know what their relationship is like. But thanks to object relations theory, we can look at Will's relationships as an adult and probably get some sense of what his relationship with his parents might have looked like growing up. The biggest three of which being Jack, Hannibal, and Molly. Jack, we've established, is not a good relationship by any means. Hannibal, his relationship with Hannibal isn't all that great either, but I mean, it isn't great, but all things considered, Will does he does say somewhere in the show that he feels more like himself when he is with Hannibal. Again, not sure if he means actually himself or whatever Hannibal has turned him into, but he does, for the first season before the manipulation like truly starts to take effect or gets like very serious. Hannibal does become sort of a safe space for Will to at least get away from Jack and the FBI. And then
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. And then you have
Grooming does
yeah,
not just happen with children.
yeah.
Yup, that's what
And
I was thinking.
yeah. And then I'm looking at his relationship with Alana and Team Sassy Science. He does not have the best relationship with them, and there's definitely potential for more. And some of the relationships with those four seem pretty one-sided if you look at them deep enough. But then he finally finds a healthy relationship with Molly before everything goes to crap, and he restarts his relationship with Hannibal. I think there
He
was a
seems to be a lot, or be surrounded by a lot more chill girls. And I don't know if that's like to reference his relationship possibly with his mom or
mm,
whatever.
yeah. I do I do wish we had gotten a little bit more we had gotten here a little bit more about what his relationship with his parents was like, and especially why his mom why he never knew his mom. I think that definitely would have helped. But I mean, Will has so much other stuff going on that his relationship with his parents isn't all that important in the terms of the show in the long run. And the conversation about his parents wasn't even that important. It was just like a one off thing to help him figure out what was happening with the case, and then it was dropped and never brought up again, like at all. Never even referred to as a conversation that had happened in the following episodes. But yeah, I feel like there was a few more things I wanted to say about object relations theory, but apparently I never wrote them down in my notes, so we're just gonna move on.
If
Terrible
his
work, everybody. Good
relationship
job.
if his relationship with his parents had been more expanded upon, um, because I don't know how much this relates to the books or how much of this is even in the books. Um, but by what they're showing in the show, he's definitely more used to um
People
I
not
don't
caring about him.
really want to say abuse, but neglect or emotional distancing from his father
Yeah.
because he clearly does not have good relationships with the males in his life.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Hannibal, it's even a thing that gets brought up sometime during season 1. Hannibal straight up calls Will's ignorance of his mental state abuse. He kind of straight up says that Will is abusing himself by ignoring how bad his mental state is getting. Um
Ah,
so yeah, Will does not have it sounds like Will does not have a good history when it comes to relationships with those around him, and that sucks. I hate that for this man.
There seems to be little to no toxic or like unhealthy relationships involving any of the women he comes across though. So I find that pretty interesting.
I think that's neat.
Yeah, I think it's a really great thing. I just think it's interesting considering it seemed like he grew up with no, mother figure or
Yeah.
like women.
Yeah. And I will say again,
Whammon.
we're not
Whammon.
told we're not really told anything about Will's relationship growing up, so who knows, there might have been some aunt, neighbor, friend in his life that did take on sort of a maternal role for him,
Rescue parent. Yeah.
which is why he has pretty good relationships with the women in his adult life. But again, we don't ever focus on his childhood, so we're kind of left in the dark for all of that.
Fair enough.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about the path of love and security and the role of reality in this path of love. Again, we're interpreting my notes and memories from class. So security is trust that other people will love me and that I am worthy of love. And that can be if you are secure, that means that you grew up with parents who tended to your needs, were good, loving, active, involved parents. If you grew up unsecure, meaning that you don't trust that other people will love you and you don't think that you yourself are worthy of love, that means you most likely grew up with absent, uninvolved parents who weren't there for you growing up. And Will definitely reads as a man who is pretty unsecure in terms
Daddy
of
issues.
love.
You got it too.
Yeah. Um I don't remember what my evidence for this was, but I have written down that Will feels unworthy of love, and I think that was just based on his relationship with Jack and Hannibal, and how not healthy and not great that those relationships are, that he stays in those relationships for as long as he does, because he probably thinks that those are the greatest relationships he has had, or the most successful relationships that he has had at any point in his life.
Yikes.
That actually kind of reminds me, because earlier you're talking about with Alana, where they kind of had a thing, but before like it could become official or anything, she kind of made it clear and kind of tapped out and was like, "You got a lot of stuff going on, bro. I personally can't deal with that."
Yeah.
Which is a valid thing for her to do. She doesn't have to, you know, stick around for him in that sense. That's not something she's obligated to do.
Yeah.
But if that's something that he was insecure about or felt poorly about, I guess, or I'm guessing things like that have happened to him before. Um, that's an interesting thing to bring up for his sense of security.
Yeah. And then the role of reality in the path of love is that unsecure people can feel secure, meaning it is not true that you can't trust anybody, that you can't trust that anybody will love you, and that you are worthy of love. And he definitely we definitely see that when Will gets married to Molly. He doesn't become completely secure because he still was raised with what we can assume was an unsecure relationship, but Molly does help him feel a lot more secure than he has felt in the past 2.5 seasons. um he, at least through my eyes, Will kind of sees Hannibal as the first person to show him any true form or version of love. Hannibal is constantly showing up with food. He's taking he is taking care of Will's mental health to Hannibal's own plans, but he is taking care of Will's mental health. And he is kind of doing his own twisted version of the job that Jack originally gave him, which was to be Will's anchor of stability and sanity. And then Molly comes up and shows him what true, real love actually is and should look like. And we love that. We love that for those two. Um, and so now we're going to look at the definitions of love. My class came up with a long list of what they defined as love and not love, and I kind of pick and chose the ones that seemed most applicable to
Pickable.
the situation. And as you can probably tell by the picture, we're going to be using this in terms of Will's relationship with Jack and Hannibal. In terms of what is love, you have no strings
Baby, don't hurt
attached.
me. Sorry.
Don't hurt me.
Yes.
No
No
more.
more.
Yeah. And I kind of tried to figure out or best place which one of these attributes fit the two of these men better. Um, for no strings attached, Hannibal it's not completely true to say that Hannibal doesn't have strings attached to his relationship with Will, but they're a lot more fine, and Hannibal changes the strings that are attached a lot. I will
What I
say,
have to
That's
say,
not
what
better.
I have to
yeah,
say is Jack is obviously not interested in Will in many of the ways what's his face might be.
no.
Um it is kind of strictly a work relationship, if not a little bit of some like platonic buddy stuff.
Oh,
But
no,
his
there's no platonic
strings,
buddy stuff between Jack and Will at all. Jack purely sees Will as a tool to get results.
fair, fair.
Hannibal at least sees
But
Will
I
as a
will say,
person.
Will, he sees him as a person he can use. He sees him as something he can play with.
Both
Fair.
of them do.
Yes.
I would argue that Jack is better in this circumstance because he does not have
At least he's
how
not
do you
sadistic
phrase
about it.
like
Yeah.
he's not taking it personal. He might be taking it personally, but he's not trying to like how do
He's
you
not. He's not sadistic.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here. Moving on. In far as consistency goes, I would say Hannibal is probably not a lot better, but is better about it than Jack is. Like I said previously, Hannibal is showing up. He's making sure Will is fed. He's, in his own twisted sense, taking care of Will emotionally and mentally, again, in his own twisted sense. Jack does none of that. The only time we see Jack and Will interacting is if it's case related, and if it's not case related, Jack does not he doesn't even check up on Will unless it's because he wants to make sure that Will is mentally fit and stable to help on another case. He does not care about Will's personal life. Hannibal seems to care at least a little bit.
In a
Z-
controlling way.
Yeah. In terms of respect, again, not perfect, but I would say Hannibal is also better at this. Like I said earlier, Hannibal respects Will as a person. Yes, a person that he can manipulate and use for his own desires, but he does see Will as a person. And I am pretty convinced that Jack just only respects Will for what his mind can do in terms of his job as a special agent for the FBI, and nothing beyond that. Jack constantly interrupts Will's lessons and does not care because there is a case that he needs taking care of.
Well, what I'm learning is if Will had just learned to yell at Jack and tell him to F off early on, this whole show wouldn't have happened.
if Will was
Yeah,
Irish, this
probably.
show wouldn't have happened.
That's it. That's the thesis statement. We can move on. End of
Yeah.
slideshow.
Yeah.
LOL.
Let's see here. Uh Patient, again, not perfect, but I would say Hannibal is more patient than Jack in regards, and if I expanded on it, I would just be repeating previous points. So we're just going to move on from that. Love is emotional. It is filled with emotion. Jack is not emotional at all. The only emotion he shows in regards to Will is anger and dissatisfaction and impatience. Um, Hannibal, even if the emotion that he shows toward Will isn't healthy, he is showing emotion. Fans have, in the season 2 finale, after Will betrays or betrays refuse or doesn't want to run away with Hannibal, doesn't want to flee the country with him, Hannibal does stab Will. Um, it's not a lethal stab because Hannibal was a surgeon before he became a therapist, and so he knows where to stab and cut that will not kill a man. But fans have kind of pointed out when they rewatch that scene that if that by stabbing Will along Hannibal makes Will look like a victim because there's a couple other stabbings and near deaths that have happened within the scene and within the episode. Meaning,
including Jack.
yes,
Oops, all stab wounds.
yes. So by stabbing Will and making Will look like a victim, the police and the authorities have no real reason to suspect that Will was helping and aiding Hannibal, because why would Hannibal stab the man who was helping and aiding him? And then you also have the fact that Hannibal regrets throwing Will in jail and framing him for his crimes. In terms of
Valid.
what, in terms of what,
I think that's just basic decency.
yeah. In terms of what is not love, we have manipulation, which is obviously Hannibal. Although, it
Both of them,
was,
but yeah.
yeah, it was noted in my class though, and this was more talking about in terms of manipulation when it comes to a relationship with children, that you can still manipulate someone and love them. One example that was brought up is manipulating children into eating their vegetables so that they can eat dessert.
Valid crush out.
Is that manipulation or bargaining?
I'm. Oh, that's actually a good point.
Well, what's the difference?
Something good for something good. Manipulation is you benefit. Generally
Fair?
at the expense of someone else.
True.
Mm,
Because if a kid doesn't understand why they should eat their vegetables,
that's true.
Parents
but
gotta do what a parent's gotta do.
yeah.
So you can have dessert, though, makes it bargaining, not manipulation.
Yeah. I'm trying
Mhm.
to remember. I feel like there were one or two better examples that were brought up when the teacher said that you can manipulate someone and still love them, but I can't remember
Yeah.
what the examples were, and it was definitely talking about health, like obviously healthy relationships.
Yes.
And I wish I could remember the examples that were given, but I don't. And I hate that for me. Love is not transactional, Jack. And I'm not going to explain further. I've already talked way too much about this man and his relationship with Will. It should be obvious why he is considered transactional. It should also be obvious why Jack is the one that I put down for love not being one sided. Jack does not have any form of love for Will outside of what his brain can do. And I don't think Will has any necessarily form of love for Jack either, but he has enough love for Jack that he continues to put up with his BS and continues
Is it
to
love or
do a
is it
job.
empathy?
Good point, Peony.
Hello, I'm here to derail your arguments.
Yeah.
I
Love.
honestly think this would have been a fun thing to do if it were Millie? Molly? Her name's
It's
Molly,
Molly.
right?
Molly, yeah.
Yes.
Molly and Hannibal. Because one of them is like basically just the picture perfect definition of what a relationship should be. And the other is not.
Yeah. And I definitely had the idea of doing that, but Molly only shows up during the last half of season 3, and we've seen Will's relationship with Jack and Hannibal a lot longer than we have, so there's more examples to work with and give.
Fair. And it
Um
gives us a chance to hate on Jack.
Get him.
yeah. Love does not cause harm. Obviously that is both of them. Jack does not care for Will's mental state, and Hannibal is Hannibal.
Hannibal is Hannibal.
Yes. Love does not lack empathy. Obviously Jack could argue, obviously Hannibal as well a little bit, but Jack definitely more so lacks empathy for Will than Hannibal does. Um and love is not jealous if you are not the object of their love. And this is what I was talking about with the isolation slide. So obviously Hannibal fits into the jealousy role. Um All right. So this is Winnicott's definition of love. I do not remember his first name. As well as self-love. We didn't talk about
You
self-love
could
a lot.
literally just Google it.
I could, but I don't care to at this point, or at this current point. Um, self-love was not talked a lot about in class because we were running out of time. But when we do get to it, we're gonna kind of go over what I view as self-love. So in the book Playing and Reality in 1917, Winnicott said that love is about a surrendering of the ego, a putting aside of one's own needs and assumptions for the sake of close, attentive listening to another person, whose mystery one respects, along with a commitment not to get offended, not to retaliate when something so called bad emerges, as it often does when one is close to someone. So I have a few sections of this kind of highlighted in one way or another. Um, Love is about surrendering the ego of putting aside of one's own need and assumptions for the sake of close, attentive listening to another person whose mystery one respects. Long-winded, but kind of, if you think back to what we've previously said about how Hannibal reviews his relationship with Will, especially talking about the judge and what he did with that, he definitely, I think Hannibal even admits himself um that he uh that his relationship with Will is a lot more emotional than any of Hannibal's other relationships, be it friendly, familial, romantic, have ever been before. And he definitely, I would say, respects Will's mystery in his own way. Like we said before, he finds Will interesting. Editor Daisy here for a quick little add-in that I forgot to mention in the slideshow. But in terms of Hannibal setting aside his ego for Will, we mentioned previously in the slideshow that Hannibal's moral code for killing is eat the rude. Will is constantly being sassy, being various levels of rude toward Hannibal, and Hannibal does not attempt to kill or eat Will until the various betrayals that we brought up. And so I feel like that is kind of pretty telling in terms of, again, Hannibal putting aside his ego for Will. But then again, he does feel offended or betrayed, and he does retaliate when Will does betray him. So there's that. You also, and then we have self love, which is kind of goes back to what we were talking about with security, which is loving yourself and feeling worthy of love. Um, and like we said before, Will, or kind of like we've alluded to before, Will lacks self love. Um, he stays working for Jack despite it being pointed out by multiple people that it is not healthy or good for his mental state at all. And he also, I would say, lets himself fall prey to isn't the right phrase, but it's the only one I can think of at this moment. So please correct me if you can think of a better phrase. But he lets himself fall prey to Hannibal's twisted version of love. He definitely fights it and tries to refuse it, but he does eventually end up succumbing to it.
I think that's not letting yourself. I think that's just getting worn down.
Yeah, that's probably more
I
correct.
was under the impression he definitely found something interesting about it, but I'm trying to figure out how to phrase that as well.
Yeah. And I will say there is something on a previous slide that I forgot to mention. I won't flip back to it, but yeah, once we're done with this, I'll go a little bit more into it. What you were gonna say?
Low-key already kind of forgot what we were talking about, but if you're
It's me.
someone who is very empathetic, I'm not talking in the supernatural sense in this case. Um, but then it would obviously still apply to him. If you come across people who are um unwell or very different in ways you're not used to, you're obviously interested in figuring out why that is.
Yeah.
Um I hmm, how
She
because
did
there's
a
that
think, and now she
factor.
has to do a word about it.
I know. It doesn't my brain don't like. Um I almost sort of see it as like a Harley Quinn situation, if that makes sense.
Ooh,
Mm.
it does, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
yummy.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way of thinking about it.
Because very obviously she found something interesting about that freak's brain.
Unfortunately for her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for her. Um, I don't know. Mother trucker. I think a part of it is because Hannibal's also very smart. Obviously not always with the best intentions.
Yeah.
He was able to recognize that this was an empathetic person who, was interested in helping or learning about this um, case, basically.
Yeah.
And he took advantage of that in a way that only a crazy smart person could. And I mean that in a not compliment way.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
So yeah, and then going back to kind of the self-love thing, Molly does teach him at least a bit of self-love because he does when he does get with Molly, he is retired from the FBI. He is taking better care of himself. Um and then Will gets back into the field and his job ends up putting Molly and her son Walter in danger. And then he fully goes back to Hannibal and ends up taking care of the threat against his family, but gives himself over to Hannibal basically completely.
So when I said music of the night is a joke,
Yeah.
It's
bro,
very
I
much
don't think
soap
it's
opera-y.
I don't think it's a joke anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a joke anymore.
Let's see here. Uh,
Oh.
that is the end. But like I said, I did skip over one thing on a previous slideshow, and this is again looking at Hanagram through the eyes of Will. He does say, like I mentioned, I think previously, that Will says of his own volition that he has never known himself as well as he knows himself when he is with Hannibal. Again, it is unclear if this is because of the manipulation or just Will being Will. And then there is a conversation near the end of season 3 where he is talking with Bedelia and just straight up asks her if Hannibal is in love with him. And she gives a very wordy answer, but what it essentially boils down to is yes, Hannibal loves you. Do you love him back? Which I think is very interesting. And then you have Will's downward spiral again into getting back into whatever form of relationship he has decided to pursue with Hannibal. And there you have it. A very messy look at the character relationships in NBC's Hannibal.
Fantastic.
Yes. Questions, comments, concerns. So many concerns.
I was I was gonna say thoughts and prayers. You're going to need them.
Yes. Honestly, it's it it's been a thing. I even put it in I think I put it in my bio on Instagram. I think maybe. Um or maybe told a family or a friend about it, but these men currently own my soul. Um, and it is not. I think I don't think it's a joke anymore.
Oh
I
my
don't.
gosh. It's definitely a what does the word commend mean?
I have no
Amend?
idea.
Commend.
Yeah,
Compliment.
yeah, basically to praise or encourage something.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
compliment I commend our dear Daisy on doing this because it is very much a very convoluted, complex,
There's
Yeah.
strange sort
there's
of
there's a
topic.
thing going on.
It's
Yes.
very hard to describe.
Yes. I'm definitely going to take a break before I just before I consider rewatching this show, but I do guess that this is probably quickly going to become one of the top choices for things that I put on as background noise when doing homework or something.
That's Unhinged.
Yes. Um yeah, anything else?
I don't think I could get into this show. It is
Yeah.
not. It
It's
is.
pretty gothic,
It's not my flavor.
to put it simply.
Yeah, ignoring all
I look at this slideshow and I see black licorice.
Oof.
yeah. Ignore yeah, even if you take out the gore and the death and the cannibalism, it is still a very convoluted and interesting show to watch.
I will say, the last season
And
is
on that
kind of.
note, I know exactly what my next slideshow is going to be about.
Oh, we do too. We see you working on it, bro.
Nope. I am setting this one aside. I have a different one in mind now.
Oh
Oh, great.
no.
Let's go.
Oh no. Um, girl, what was I even
No
saying?
spoilers.
Season 3 is kind of completely unhinged. Um, it's just it feels like you're on a fever dream the whole time.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
2 is a little bit of a mix of that and what else would you call it?
Season 2 is kind of chill, but
Well,
definitely
I
a
would
good
describe
segue between season 1 and season
season
3.
1 is a pretty not stereotypical, but a more natural basic concept of a like
Crime
detective
thriller.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the vibe of the first season. The second season is a pretty good continuation of that, I think. And then the third season feels just kind of unhinged,
Yeah.
off the rails.
Yeah.
But like not particularly in a bad way. It's in a
Yeah.
way where like I can't really it even got too much for me at some points because I'm just kind of like, what's going on here? But
Yeah. And I will say props to season 2 for coming out the way it is cuz like I said, season 2 is like 13 episodes long and the entire season takes place within the span of like 2 weeks, which
yes,
is
it
a
was very good
lot to
writing.
cover. So they're covering a like each episode takes place in the span of like a day, which is awesome.
It's like
The makeup department is amazing as well.
Yeah.
The effects, I don't even know what you'd call it.
Mm.
It's baller though.
Okay.
Really very
That's
nice.
okay. Fun behind the scenes story. I think Hugh Dancy, who plays Will Graham, said somewhere in an interview that makeup, practical effects, and I think costuming all argue over who had the best like fake blood. But he said it doesn't really matter because you end up getting covered in all three, which is
It
kind of hilarious. That it doesn't matter
amazing.
who has the best blood because everybody ends up covered in all three at some point.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah,
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to try and summarize, but
Oh,
I think there are a lot of good
definitely.
stories within it,
Yeah, just yeah, looking
especially
at
the first season. It's very episodic. I like that
yeah,
vibe.
yeah, season 1 is very much case of the week feel, and just those cases by themselves are very interesting to see the motives behind it and how they catch it and how they deal with them. It's the cases themselves are pretty interesting, I think, which is very good considering that they have to depict FBI doing their jobs while also going through Will's emotional trauma for all of 3 seasons.
I will say one point. There is a dude who gets severe burn wound burn wounds? Burn wounds. Oh my gosh. Um And some types of surgeries or medications that you do for severe burn victims like that involve fish scales. And I noticed that they put the detail of the healing of the skin that you get when they use fish scales on your body, if that makes any sense. And I just thought that
Yeah.
was a really good detail to put
Yeah.
in because that's something, normal people don't think about. And I just think it goes to the fact that they put good effort into the details of those aspects.
Yeah. I remember going through that scene and just not paying that much attention because I didn't like the character, but then you like pointed out the fish scales and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool that they would that they did their research to some degree."
Trying to summarize this whole show is kind of impossible
Oh,
because
definitely.
all of the things she brought up made sense to me, but that's because I watched it. But not everything made sense to me, but it did. Anyways,
Nearly almost made sense, but not quite.
but it's not because the writing is that bad, it's because the writing is so good, low key.
Yeah, so
It's
complex.
very well written. Um and there's just honestly, you could do like a whole slideshow on just one episode and you would have genuine content to talk about. It's
Honestly,
pretty
yeah.
cool. It's pretty cool.
That is quite cool.
It's very well written. And the only time I really noticed any cheesy writing was literally the last episode. And that made me think maybe it's because they legit just had like a really bad time constraint and they needed to get it out there, you know? Because
Mm.
like
Yeah.
ending a show this complex is kind of difficult, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Um,
Yeah, I believe it.
yeah. So I genuinely think they um had a lot of good, I don't know if I want to say good points, but they had a lot of good writing going about everything really. I don't yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a you have to see it sort of thing.
Yeah. You have to see it
Um
to kind of get I'd say
or we would have had to literally do like one episode at a time and that would have taken forever.
oh, definitely.
I think that'll do it for today.
Yeah, see? Drink your water.
Yes, ma'am. Go finish the responsibilities you're procrastinating.
And we'll see y'all around.
Bye.
Ah 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 ah.
Bye.